What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down what on earth is going on with SPY right now as this thing is going crazy, and this is actually helping the market pump. And we are seeing lots of stocks starting to pump, including NIO. NIO is also pumping pretty hard as of right now. It's actually near the end of the day, so I'm going to break down why NIO is pumping like this, what we should be expecting, and whether or not we're actually going to get a big reversal. Now, before I break anything down, before I get into any more details, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NEO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is, any could be a free NIO share, a free Tesla share, or a mix of all of them. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 3 days, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Looking at the market right now, it's incredibly important to note the fact that the market's beginning to pump pretty hard. We saw SPX break above 4,000. We saw SPY break to 399. I did tell you guys my prediction for the top was 398 to 402. So we're getting very, very close to the top, in my honest opinion. And I do believe there is more room for this to continue. Now, if we look at this trend, this is resembling an Elliott wave sequence where we have a 5-leg push. On the smaller time frame, you can actually see this more clearly way back here. So to me personally, this is looking like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're at the 5 for the final big push. But the real question is, are we going to reverse, or is the market going to just keep going? I want to break that down in just a few minutes. But let's now talk about why NIO did actually drop today. It's actually down about 0.34% as of right now, but it is trying to pump up again. We could actually see this thing get a pretty decent close if it keeps pushing up. It's not doing too bad. NIO gapped down and came down to about $11.23 in the very beginning of the day, as did like Tesla and many other stocks out there. But we ended up getting a nice reversal and we started pumping up pretty well. Very interesting to see. Now, why did NIO pump up? Because the whole market is actually pumping, right? And if anything, before the pump came, we actually saw this come down because of the Tesla news. Tesla has been slashing more of their prices for all of their models, and this is going on now in the European markets and also the USA. Tesla's slashing the prices. This is showing that demand is weakening for this company, and this in turn is actually making people look very concerned about what's about to happen near the very end of uh, this quarter, right? So I want to just note that going forward, yes, there is some pain that's still yet to come. I don't think the market's like necessarily done with the bear market. I do believe that we are seeing this correction phase, like right here on the SPY, and we are actually getting very close to retesting the upper trend line, the resistance. I believe we're going to retest it very soon, that 400 mark on SPY, but I don't know if we're going to break past it. We might just barely break it, then we might see a big reversal afterwards. But we are forming a divergence. We're actually seeing this lower high as of right now, but the RSI is actually a lot higher than where it was back then. It's at 61. Before, when it peaked at 408, it was barely at like 57, 58. So we have a bearish divergence forming. And I'd be very careful right about here because we could be very close to the top. And I also want to note that the VIX, okay, is at a very low level, and I think this is set to reverse. Let me show you why. Well, on the VIX, since for all of 2022, all right, the VIX has been at the lowest we saw it was like 16, but typically since like March, if we ignore that one time, it's always bounced off 18.45. We actually broke below that. So now we have to watch for like 17.38 and then 16.34 on the VIX. We have new levels to watch for on this. Now, this is very important because when this thing ends up moving, it's going to have a big effect on whether or not it's getting ready to bounce, and also how this ends up affecting many investors and their sentiments. I also want to note that right here, we're getting very, very close to a critical level. So 18 flats, if we break below that, we got to watch that, 17.3 zone. Below that 16.34 is where we could bounce. We're getting very close to being super, super oversold. This thing has dropped very, very hard. And we know typically around these levels, we get a massive bounce. I still believe it's going to come, but it's going to take a couple of weeks. Now, when I say this, this basically is, in my opinion, an indication that the market might be getting ready to reverse a little bit. I do think that QQQ could continue to pump a bit. We could get to that 283 level. We have a little bit more room, but I do believe a big reversal will still come anyways, and this will affect NIO and the whole market. Why? Because we have earnings coming up. Tesla has earnings in about 2 weeks, Amazon in about 3 weeks, Netflix in about, actually, I think it's next week. Is it next week? No, it's the week after, the very beginning of the week after. But we have so many big catalysts ahead of us. Oh no, this is actually next week. I'm sorry, this is next Thursday. So we have so many, earnings coming out. It's going to affect how the market moves. Is the market going to pump or drop? We'll have to just wait and see. But as of right now, I'm still going to be very cautious. And we also have some Fed speakers. We also have PPI coming out. If we look specifically at the earnings season that's coming up, we're going to see more big bank earnings. Today, the big banks actually beat on earnings, but I'm talking about JP Morgan, I'm talking about Bank of America. They beat, but the problem is they were telling everyone, hey, we are still worried about a recession. So we could see Citigroup was a little bit below, but Bank of America beat, JP Morgan Chase beat, Wells Fargo beat on earnings. They did well, but they're saying a recession is coming. Now for Tuesday, excuse me, we have Goldman Sachs, we have Morgan Stanley, we have other big banks. By Wednesday, we have Charles Schwab, we have other big banks as well. By Thursday, that's when we're going to start to see Netflix, PG, P&G. What else is there? We have a bunch of other companies, and then we have so much more coming. But Netflix is going to be a big one for next week, and also more of the big banks. So please be very careful with those. For NIO, Max Payne's at $11. We're actually approaching the $12 mark. The market is continuing to squeeze. And I mentioned to everyone, when you look at SPY, do not forget about this ratio. All right, if you look at the options chain, SPY had a very high put to call ratio. You can see the majority of people were in puts right here for expiration. 1.81 was the put to call ratio. The majority of people think the market was going to crash. NIO's price per ratio is now bouncing, showing lots of strength. We got lots of hold and buy ratings. And finally, on NIO's Twitter page, they didn't really post anything new since I actually mentioned this earlier, but it's actually improving. So what do I see on the markets? This is my theory. I don't believe the market's going to rally forever. I don't believe it, guys. I think we have a little bit more room to go. All right. But I see a problem. When you zoom out of the NASDAQ all the way out, you could see we have a clear. Let's hide my EMAs. Let's hide the RSI. This looks like a clear head and shoulders like formation, right? And you can't forget there's likely going to be more downside in this market. The Fed is not done with the rate hikes. The Fed could say more aggressive things. Earnings, we're entering phase 2 of this recession. That's where the earnings start to get hit due to lower demand. And the effects of these rate hikes are yet to come. And we are still going to be entering a recession. All right? And if you want to say something like, oh, the recession is not confirmed yet, well, the only argument you have against that, because we already did have 2 negative GDP quarters, the only argument is based off unemployment data. What's going to happen when unemployment starts going up? What's going to happen when jobs start getting hit? What's going to happen when the market starts to see a recession? We're likely going to see more downside. All right. When you look at this formation, to me, it looks like the NASDAQ has a little bit more room to push up. Right here to form this right shoulder, we could push up just a little bit, another 1% or so, 1.5%, just a little bit more. Maybe SPY is up another 1%, hitting that 402-ish level. That was my target on SPY. Maybe we push up a little bit more, before we get another big reversal. And maybe the FOMC meeting will be the trigger for this thing to start collapsing. All right, so I just wanted to put that out there. We should be very careful. Don't be overconfident. I'll just wait and see how this goes. What this tells me about NIO is, yes, NIO is doing all right. We did actually break out of this wedge, the rising wedge that was actually forming. But what else is worth noting is the fact that we're not necessarily dead. We actually bounced right back up, and we could actually just readjust it. But the reason why we bounced out of it was because of the news involving Tesla. I just want to note that. If we look at the chart, it's looking a lot like this as of right now. We could redraw this. Maybe it's going to continue pumping, but I also want to note that NEO is still fighting pretty hard, and we are going to try to get to $12. We could actually get there. I'm still a little bit bullish. I think we could push up a little bit more, but until then, right, I'd be very cautious if this thing gets to 12 or a little higher. Be very cautious because you have to remember, okay, the market has more potential for a reversal. I'm still very cautious. What do I say to Neo? Maybe this thing is about to push up a little bit, but I'd still be very, very careful. Anyways, thank you all so much for listening. Have a great rest of the day. Remain calm, cool, and collected. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Neo to the moon because the long term future is still incredibly bright. And peace out.